Yes, hello there. I am here to bring you a little new thing. Well, not new to the world, but new here. I am going to be bringing you when I find something highly interesting across news. Why? I don't know. I'm bored. This is going in the podcast section. If I can figure out how to ever do that. So we are going to go over to Russia and Ukraine, which there was been going on for 3 to 4 years now. Putin still refuses to give up his special military operation. I find that highly funny of him. Moving on. Putin warns of air quotations real nuclear war risk. This is by not going to try and pronounce that. ALJAZEERA.com. Okay. I shall now begin. Russia's defense ministry has claimed that its troops killed 1,325 Ukrainian soldiers in the past 24 hours. I don't believe that. Ukraine's military said it shot down more than three Russian Su 34 fighter bombers, the latest success it has reported against Moscow's Air Force. The European Parliament says Russia's President Vladimir Putin bears the criminal and political responsibility for opposing leader Alexei Navalny's death. I probably horribly butchered that last name. I am sorry. The death. He was a opposing um outgoing speaker in Russia, and we know how Russia has its history of magically making people disappear, and should be held to account. Putin's warning to the West that it risks nuclear war if it sends soldiers to Ukraine should be taken seriously. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk was cited by Poland's honest politician as saying the European Parliament has approved a resolution calling for the transfer of Ukraine of everything necessary for victory, including long range missiles and frozen Russian assets, according to its press service. Ooh. So, this is going to be very, very interesting. But then again, a whole lot um, can change. Now we move over to Ukraine's losses on the battlefield could make the war more dangerous for Russia. This is on CNBC News, so go to CNBC.com to find out where I got this. Time to begin. Early on in the war with Russia, Ukraine's success on the battlefield prompted warnings for defense analysis that Moscow, with its back against the wall militarily, could lash out using a nuclear weapon on Ukrainian soil, which would prompt NATO to respond rapidly and Russia to be the span of maybe a couple thousand miles. Ukrainian forces appear vulnerable with their new military commander. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. Along of the front line this week, this comes amid wider concerns over weapon shortages and an uncertain outlook over future Western military aid. Meanwhile, Russia is counting gains with the capital capture of the industrial city of Advaka in Dolzhnitz in 2 weeks ago, and several other surrounding settlements since then. Ironically, however, Russia's advances could also prove dangerous for Moscow, as Ukraine's increasingly treacherous situation could lead its military backers engaged to ensure a Russian defeat to give Ukraine everything it needs to beat the invading forces. I'm gonna be honest, my way to solve this is we drop in a bunch of unsupervised Canadians and let them run wild. Our problems will be fixed so easily. Moving on, with Ukraine now on the back foot, analysis says it's Russia that now faces the possibility of a desperate West. The Ukraine's backers compensating for Ukraine's vulnerability by giving it more advanced weapon systems, longer range missiles, air defense systems, and fighter jets more quickly. That in turn would make the war much harder and more dangerous for Russia. Analysts describe this situation as an escalation paradox. Fiercely daily combat is and very high casualty rates are considered with low escalation risk provided the fronts remain broadly stable, as in 2023. Christopher Granville, managing director of the Global Political Research at T.S. Lombard, said in a note this week. Controversially, when one or another side gains the upper hand, the risk rises and compensatory escalates from the side which is on the back foot, he noted. So, from this, Ukraine is making progress, but if you did not know, they are running low on basically all forms of ammunition. Artillery shells are a really big one, and they really need those to hammer quickly. The longer range missiles will help them out faster, but I feel like the easiest solution would be we put a few men on the ground, maybe just like a couple units, and just have Russia obliterated. Anyway, Ukrainian gains in the second half of 2022 prompted the fears of Russia going nuclear, with Ukrainian forces now losing ground, notably with this month's fall of Advocacia and subsequent retreat. This escalation impulse comes from Ukraine's Western backers, he said. The escalation paradox was nearly in evidenced by France's President Emmanuel Macron this week when he suggested that NATO countries had discussed that possibility of deploying ground troops in Ukraine. Oh, at least someone else has the right mindset. I say that would solve our problems much faster, less costly too, money wise, maybe not men wise. While Macron was clear that there was no conscience about the idea among European leaders and Western officials from the US, UK, and Canada who had met in Paris on Monday. That was drowned out by the noise surrounding his comment that possibly could not be ruled out. The comments prompted hasty denials from NATO countries and furious response from Moscow, warning the Kremlin warning that NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine would make NATO-Russia conflict inevitable. So that means Putin is going to be so stupid, he's going to go to war with the biggest military alliance in the history of mankind. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly how many countries that are here, but there is enough to send them back so far into the Stone Ages. Unless they retaliate to us in nuclear weapons. That would doom us entirely. Okay, we are now moving on to another article that is by rferl.org. Kasparov says Russia may shed some territories if it loses the war in Ukraine. Alright. Self-exiled Russia opposition politician and co-founder of the Free Russia Forum, Gary Koshevich, told the RFE/RFL in the interview on March 1st that Russia's current borders may not necessarily remain if Moscow loses the war in Ukraine, but stressed that a total dissolution of Russia is unlikely. Like I said, Russia would not completely go missing, but it's already a shell of what it once greatly was. It's going to be even brokener of a shell. It's gonna be a broken glass, and someone's gonna try and have it so filled with liquid. Among possible regions, Kasparov said might separate from the Russian Federation are the republicans of Turkestan, Bakarastan, Dagestan, and Chechnya. But he added he doesn't believe everything is clear about what will come after the war. At the end of the day, economic factors will play a major role in that matter, but it is very important today not to support the position of the united and indivisible Russia, said adding Kasparov said, adding his beliefs that the change of Russia's imperial character is necessary for its formatting. The 6-year-old former world chess champion said the losses to Russia would be minimal, but said if you reject an empire, then you have to agree that some of its parts can go away in the end. The bonds that would make it hard for Russia to dissolve would most likely be economic ties, he said. But if some parts of Russia succeed, it would then become possible to reach new agreements between Russia's territories under what would be a free confederation. So a few of these countries are thinking about revolting. Another Russian civil war could be Revolution 2. They've had some of those as well. And somehow this doesn't work out. Or it does work out and then someone gets a little too power hungry and begins grabbing things left and right. Well, that is all the news I have to offer you. So we are all, as always, on the break of Putin's nuclear war threats. I really hope that's not a surprise to us all. Come on now. I also hope that we all are gonna have a wonderful rest of your weekend, knowing that Putin's thinking about launching nukes at us. China's always helping them. Iran and North Korea are selling them munitions, by the way. That's lovely too. Um, we are currently in like 3 to 9 different wars that we aren't going to say they're wars. They're just military operations being conducted in the Middle East. That is all the news I have to bring to you today. Have a lovely rest of your weekends and try not to get drafted when NATO decides to put men on the ground. Like I said previously, I hope you all have a good weekend. I will see you in the next one. Please subscribe and bye bye.